Welcome to the second installment in a set of videos looking at the PSION Series 5 pocket computers, specifically the PSION 5MX. I wondered what these funky hieroglyphics in the logo were all about, and I had an inspired moment sometime between making the last video and this one. The fancy symbols above each letter are just the chopped up pieces of the letter directly underneath. In the first video of this set, we took a good look at the unit itself, did the unboxing, and had a close look at the promotional material that comes boxed with the unit. We also took a brief look at the unit's stock software, including the built-in language interpreter for OPL, including a small demo program that could be entered into the unit and run on the unit itself. In this video, I'll introduce and unbox a commercial software package for chess and cover the cheap way out of coming up with a serial cable to install such software. The process of installing commercial software differs from the way that you'd typically go about installing software that was produced by a private individual. Let's do the unboxing then. I've decided to collect for this, and the side effect of that will be the ability to offer up material, both software and hardware, exclusive to this channel, not seen anywhere else on YouTube. I'll give a bit of a preview of that at the end of this video, but for now, here's my first original disc for the PSION MX5, a HD floppy disk, chess. I've never paid more for a floppy disk in my life, so just as well it comes with a manual. This is a 3-language manual, so it's not as bulky as it looks. It's got a warning inside specifically for the PSION 5MX. It's about disabling PSIWin, which is the stock suite of backup, restore and synchronization tools to stop it hogging the serial port, because this game comes with its own serial installer. And look at that, yuck, it's got some gunk on the back that I can't live with, so I've cleaned that up immediately with a wet rag, and now it's shiny. And from here all we're left with is a bit of mumbo jumbo, probably some warranty or guarantee or other legal stuff, and we've also got a registration card and envelope. I've always got an urge to send these away when a company's long gone, just to confuse someone at the other end. I've been advised to fix this dog ear with PVA, which is usually wood glue, so I can get this glamour shot, which is probably the best I can do. Incidentally, this chess game was featured in one of the promotional booklets that came with the device, even though I didn't show it in the first video. You might be familiar with PSION Chess as a game title for the ZX Spectrum. It shouldn't be confused with this one. They're totally different games with different authors, and in this case PSION was a software distributor. If you happen to be playing PSION Chess for ZX Spectrum on a ZX Spectrum emulator for PSION hardware, then you're playing PSION Chess for ZX Spectrum for ZX Spectrum for PSION, just to be clear. If you're playing chess for PSION, I don't think PSION had anything to do with it. Fortunately, I already had a USB floppy disk drive for the Mavica, which I did a video on a while back. The thought occurred to me that an 18-year-old floppy disk might not work, although the unboxing was a little illegitimate because I had a sneak peek. This is the first time I checked the floppy disk to find out if I was going to be able to read it. All looks good, so the plan is to save a copy to my hard drive and an SD card so that I won't have to read the floppy disk again and it can go back in the box. When I was making the first video in this set, I only had an 8GB compact flash card that wasn't recognised by the PSION, but a friend in the Amiga group has sent me a couple of new ones, well, old ones, and I've brought one from eBay, a 128MB compact flash. This is not only useful for storage, but provides an easy method of transferring software written by independent developers from a PC to the PSION. The same thing could be achieved with the serial link cable that's supposed to come in the box, but it didn't come with mine, and these are typically pretty expensive. The device certainly has functionality that can't be exploited without a serial cable, so I do need to come up with something, and I noticed this listing on eBay. Big bucks can be saved on cables that have the properly molded connector at the PSION end and flying leads at the other. I initially thought these were a proprietary PSION connector, but it turns out they're PCM-CIA connectors, used in some cases where a PCM-CIA card, also known as a PC card, needs to lead a cable outside of the computer. Given that the D9 connectors that go at the other end of the cable are commonly available and easy to work with, it seems that these are a bargain. The eBay listing included a table that related pin numbers to wire colours, but I've completed that table to also include the signal names. These signals are true for the PSION connector, so TX means that it's the PSION doing the transmitting at its end. The first cable I've put together has a 6-pin mini DIN connector at the other end. It's simple and only supports transmit and receive. I plan to use this for debugging microcontrollers over a serial port. In contrast, the first arrangement I've whipped up for the PC is a bit more complicated. I'm starting with a prolific-based USB to serial converter which only has flying leads for transmit and receive. The prolific chip itself does support the extra serial control lines, but to get to them I'd have to do some pretty tricky soldering and modify the encapsulation that closes over the circuit board, as well as change the lead. The USB to serial converter isn't true RS-232, so I've used the trusty MAX232 chip to make that level translation. The PSION does have an RS-232 serial port. It can directly operate an old school dial-up modem, for example. This segment shows that I've directly connected the request to send clear to send signals together, as well as the data terminal ready, data set ready pins. The MAX232 board requires power, which I'm providing with a battery pack. It probably goes without saying I'm less than satisfied with this setup, but for now it's just about getting it working so I can get this software installed. For a separate project, I'm considering retiring this board and making a big serial box with separate connectors for RS-232 straight through null modem and a connector for TTL. To further clarify the details of my serial connection, there are two ways to wire up a null modem cable: the proper way, complete crossover, and the lazy way. The lazy way, illustrated on the left here, involves fooling the device at each end into thinking that hardware flow control is working by feeding back its own hardware flow control signals to itself. In this case, with the hardware I have on hand, I have little choice. The USB to serial converter is already wired this way on the circuit board itself. With the serial cable put together, it's time to actually install this chess game. My everyday computers run Mac OS and Windows 7, but I've got a problem running the installer. Some Windows compatibility mode might provide a way around this, but I do have a backup plan. I've got an ultra cheap Pendo laptop that a mate sold me for $50. It's utter crud rubbish, but it's gonna save me this time. This one is designed for and running Windows XP. To test out the serial program, I used Windows Hyperterminal and the inbuilt serial terminal on the PSION to have a quick text chat to myself, and everything went fine. I recorded the actual software installation in a single wide take. Some of the zooms are going to look like rubbish, but I'll do my best to talk you through it. First, we have to choose the program we're installing, and in this folder retrieved from the disk, there's only one. The next messages displayed are about connection with the device, retrieving information, and then a window displaying the capacity left on the drive that's selected to install the program. The next message to be displayed is about existing files, and I think that's because I already had a chess program installed that was also called chess, and probably had files and folders called chess. I hope the package I'm installing is better, because I don't know if these two can coexist. From here the file copy process begins, and I'm not going to subject the viewer to that whole process. It's also running slower than usual. I've got serial set to 9600 baud, even though the device is much faster than that. This is legitimately the first time I've done this, and I thought it best to be on the safe side. LEDs on the MAX232 board indicate serial activity. Red is for transmit from the PC and yellow is transmit from the PSION. The green LED indicates power and should stay lit all the time. That is, at least until I cut it off, because it's annoying. This close-up shows the loopback of the serial handshake signals on the PSION cable. The installation process is just about to finish up here. In reality, it took about 10 minutes, if I recall correctly, because I do this narration afterwards, and there was the message for success. Now we can finally take a look at the chess game. There's a new icon in the extras menu that the installer put there to launch the chess game. Well, it's not exactly new because I already had a chess game called Chess, but the icon is new. The game has a few different views of the board that it makes available to the viewer through a menu. It can rotate the board and it has a 3D menu, so you can look at the board sideways and you can change the side that the pieces are on. That basically means you can swap white and black. The program has all the options you'd expect out of a chess game, including 6 difficulty levels and the option to take back moves. You can change the speed of the animation because a hand comes across and actually moves chess pieces. The fast setting is rather slow, so I'd hate to see the slow one. I think this is just to avoid ghosting on the LCD display. The program has a lot of options to support learning chess, and one that I found interesting was a tutorial that animates the moves that a piece can make. Screen touches and button pushes are accompanied by the usual clicking sounds, but I've muted this recording because there was noise in the background. I've noticed that this program seems to adhere to a general GUI style that's shared with the stock programs and also with some privately written software. The buttons and individual windows are all very square with sharp corners. They haven't gotten into rounded corners yet. Also, I've noticed the clock at the lower right part of the screen seems to exist in a lot of programs. You can probably click on that and turn it into an analog clock face. Since I'm hopeless at chess, and even if I played a game it would take a long time, I'm going to show you a feature called Master Games, which can replay one of a bunch of famous chess games from history. I wish that included an 1834 game that was used in the plot in an episode of Lex, a 90s sci-fi series, but it doesn't.
We are all just chess pieces in a continuum and can only think inside the box.
So instead I'll set the unit to replay the first game on the list, which is an 1809 game between the Automaton and Napoleon I. The Automaton, better known as the Turk, was the first chess computer which turned out to be an elaborate hoax. The Automaton was taken on many tours and competed against many famous chess players. Whenever the Automaton competed, it turned out that it just contained a strong human chess player inside. This segment shows how to navigate the menu to select a particular master game from the list. I'm not sure if there's any sneaky way to add to that menu. A game appears to load already completed, so I've rewound one off camera so I can play it again. I'll start off in real time and then speed up the video. A sneak preview of what's coming up, because I have got more on the way from eBay and other sources, and also out of this software literature. I've got the modem, the PC card modem, which is a fax modem, and mine is GSM ready, and also the card modem adapter. I'm hoping to be able to find an old pot line and send a fax on camera. I've managed to set up the C++ SDK in Windows 7, which uses Microsoft Visual C++ version 5.0 as the IDE. So there should be some more programming coming up. The SDK comes with a range of emulators, which is what I'm showing here, which can also run the stock programs. At least for me, that all pales in comparison to this GPS software that comes with GPS hardware. Even though the map data isn't for my country, I'm very keen for this to arrive.